I see some really pretty flowers. And it ain't April Fool's. It really is spring. It's arrived. And that's good news for Old Noah Road, because Noah Road is heading back out on the road. I mean, tomorrow. That's the plan. Could be the next day. I'm actually running some garbage into town. Like anybody really cares, but you know, that's what I'm doing. Just in case I upload this. Maybe I'll get on a roll about something, a certain topic. Like a topic I was on yesterday. I just reflected on the last 4 months and realized like what a interesting sort of dark night of the soul, you know. And for those of us walking the journey of the spiritual path, you know, walking the mountain range of the spiritual path, you know, you have your ascension and you have your summits, which are really amazing experiences. But because it's a mountain range, that's what a spiritual journey is. It doesn't travel in a straight line. You have your descent and you have your valleys and dark nights of the soul. And when you get caught a little off guard by certain maybe activities you might be engaged in or ways of thinking, pity parties, possible alcoholism, you're not really doing the spiritual practice anymore, you got a little burnout, and you're kind of looking at yourself and saying, wait a minute, this isn't very seemly for somebody at this level of enlightenment, you know, somebody who's been on a spiritual path as long as I have, crying out loud, and shouldn't be falling into that kind of behavior. Getting all down in the dumps and, you know, well, everything is cyclical and everything is seasons, and this is just a season of where the lights get kind of dim, and when the lights are dim you bump up against things and they catch you by surprise, including behavior, you know, things that you thought years earlier you laid to rest. And that happened, you gotta say, wait a minute, what's the first thing I noticed? The first thing I noticed about falling away from the spiritual path or being in the dark night of the soul and kind of engaging in behaviors or thoughts, entertaining pity parties and alcohol, you know, consumption and so forth. The first thing I noticed is I actually notice it. In other words, I actually care. It bothers me. That's the first sign that you are still on the spiritual path. You're just, you know, went through your ascension, you went through your summit, you sat on the mountaintop and meditated, you fasted, you experimented by trial and error through nutrition, and went through your fruitarian kicks, possibly even a little breatharian, possibly even, some people might find this gross, but urine therapy. You purified your body, you know, through those protocols. You really did a lot of shadow work. And here you are, you know, caught by surprise by some sort of behavior that you thought you would have laid to rest years ago. Well, the first thing to notice is the first thing to take notice of is that you actually care enough to say, wait a minute, this bothers me. The next thing, you got to say, uh-oh, now I understand what happened. Everything is seasonal, everything is cyclical, and I'm in a dark night. I've descended into the valley, and I'm kind of walking around in the dark. I didn't realize it, and I'm kind of bumping up against old behaviors that should have been long since laid to rest. And I don't feel good about it. It's not compatible with my spiritual journey. So what does this mean for me? It means that every time you're raising a level of enlightenment, it's just like a guy at the gym. He starts out with 160 pounds is a challenge. He overcomes that in a few months, and 225, and then 275 and 305, or so on and so on. Same with any other exercise at the gym. Well, that's how it is with spiritual practice. You attain to a level of enlightenment, and that there's the ascension and the summit, and you kind of sit at the mountaintop and you reap some of the benefits, and then all of a sudden you descend before you realize it, and then you find yourself bumping up against things in the dark. Well, you're just hitting new challenges. You know, it's seasonal. That's what happened to me, and I think anybody that really takes a spiritual journey seriously, or who lives like the contemplative religious life, you know, if you feel bad about it, that's a real good sign, because you're not doing it for the sake of your appetites. You're not doing it for that. You're not doing it for indulgence sake. You're not falling into it. You're purging into it. You know, you had some unresolved issues that were lodged in some of the dark corners of your mind, in the dark corners of your soul, some of the hidden places. And now is the time where you had to descend to face them. Why? Because you indeed have reached higher levels of enlightenment than you were the year before. Last year, if you would have gone through the same thing, it would have really destroyed you. And now it's just making you feel a little uncomfortable. And you're not going to spend as much time in the dark night as you would have a year or two ago under the same circumstances, and you're certainly not losing your faith. So I reflected on the last 4.5 months and realized that that's what I've been going through. And I realize now, I think I am a better version of myself now, even though I think I have engaged in some thoughts or activities or behavior that I thought would have been better off keeping it in my past. I know that it was part of a process. I definitely wasn't doing anything that I shouldn't have done, gone through any pity parties, or drinking jags, or intimacy with my old friend that I probably shouldn't have bothered with. Oh, look at this toy dog. I wonder where do you keep your batteries at, huh? Where do you keep the batteries? A cute dog. I'm not even a fan of dogs, but that dog's pretty darn cute. I mean, there's exceptions. The reason I don't like dogs as a hitchhiker and a wandering homeless person is because they can be dangerous. There's a lot of irresponsible dog owners, and the barking can drive me nuts. And you know, the fact that there's a lot of irresponsible homeowners that don't seem to think for a second that there's somebody who might walk by and they got their dog without a leash, and the dog starts to come up on them and look really aggressive. You know, I've had a lot of those kind of experiences, you know, hiking the roads. So I'm not a big fan of dogs, but you know, every now and then there's an exception, right? Like that little fella. But anyways, back on the topic of the dark night of the soul. I know I've been kind of going through that recently. Sorry, after shaking, this is probably gonna get pretty dizzy. Dizzying. Gotta keep an eye on my time. 9 minutes and 36 seconds. Well, anyways, I'm saying goodbye to Osceola Mills, Pennsylvania. It has been I don't know, how can I say it? It's been a treasure. And I suppose, you know, ultimately with my personal dark night of the soul, and I think anybody else's, if they're on the spiritual path and they come across one of these seasons like I just described, where they've descended into a valley and got caught by surprise, a little off guard. Well, I think on the other side of all this, I'm going to be a way better version of myself, because I care, because I have consciously and proactively interacted with what was going on at the deepest levels. And I realized that there was just some unresolved issues. And that happens, you know, when it catches you off guard. Especially when you've been riding high for a while and you've had a wonderful summer. You've been on the mountain for, you know, a few months. You get a little spiritual burnout. Take a little break from the spiritual path, and suddenly you wake up one day and you're in a valley in the dark night of the soul, and you're bumping up against things that in the dark, you know. It's just because there's unresolved issues, and they will be for as long as we live. But the more we wake up, become aware, and consciously and proactively relate to these issues, and the sooner we get out of the dark nights, we spend less and less duration of time in them, and the darkness is more like twilight. It's not so severe after a while, because you know what's going on. There's some things I regret. But that shows that I care. And tomorrow I'm leaving, that's the plan. The next day it's supposed to be raining. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going. I have an idea. It all depends on my friend. If she's gonna come and get me, or else if I have to walk, if we decide if I have to walk, I'm gonna go to one area, and if I get a ride, I'll go to a different area. Anyways, just wanted to say hello, and wanted to think about the dark night of the soul that I just went through, and other people go through it too if they're on the spiritual journey. And I kind of wanted to say goodbye one more time. That was Yellow Mills. Take one more little walk with my video camera to the garbage. This place has been really good for me. I absolutely needed it. It's one of those vital seasons in my life, even though a lot of the season is something that I felt a lot of the behavior, the thoughts, and the things I was, you know, that were coming up, or things that were laid to rest a year or two earlier. Well, anyways, I'm rambling on about it, and just wanted to, oh yeah, some more spring I see. Let me see real quick. Do you see? Oh yes, there they are, the flowers. Alright. No road until tomorrow, or sometime in the near future from camp. We're out now.